All right. 4.2 homework. Number 2. So what's the first thing we have to find? Vertex, axis of symmetry, or max or min?
Axis of symmetry.
And what's our formula for axis of symmetry?
Negative b.
Negative b over 2a. So we need to find our a and find our b. So what's our a? 5. And what's our b? 0. Awesome. So we get negative 0 over 2 times 5. What happens when we have 0 on the top?
0.
The whole thing is 0. So what's our axis of symmetry? X equals 0. So then what's our first number in our vertex? 0. How do we find the second number? Plug in 0. So we have 5 times 0 squared. What's 0 squared?
0.
And what's 5 times 0?
0.
So what's our second number in our vertex? 0. All right. Does our graph open up or open down? Gilbert? Up. Awesome. Our A is positive, so it opens up. So is our vertex at the max or min? Min. Good job. Ready for the next one? Any questions on that one?
No.
All right, number 3. So, where do we start?
Axis of symmetry.
And what's our formula for axis of symmetry?
Negative b over 2a.
Negative b over 2a. What is our a and what is our b?
2 and negative 1.
Awesome. Our a is 2, our b is negative 1. So we have negative 1 over 2 times 2. What happens to that negative 1 on top?
Oh, it becomes positive.
Becomes positive 1. And then, what's 2 times 2?
4.
4. So our axis of symmetry is what?
1/4.
1/4.
Oh, no, I got it right.
So our first number in our vertex is 1/4. How do we find the second number?
Plug in.
Plug it in. So we plug in 1/4 into our x's. So we have 2 times 1/4 squared minus 1/4.
This is the hardest one.
Yeah, fractions kind of make it tough. So what should we do first?
1/4 times squared.
1/4 squared. So we have 1/4 times 1/4. What's 1/4 times 1/4?
1/8.
So remember, we multiply the tops together, so that gives us 1, and we multiply the bottoms together. So what's 4 times 4?
Oh, okay. 16.
16. So we have 2 times 1 over 16 minus 1/4 plus 4. If you got this far, good job. But we still need to keep going. So what do we do next?
Correct. So 2 times 1/16.
2 times 1 over 16. So we have 2 over 16. Can we simplify 2 over 16?
Yeah.
What does it simplify to?
1/8. Yeah.
Awesome. We're dividing the top and the bottom by 2. So this is 1/8. So we have 1/8 minus 1/4 plus 4. So let's add our fractions together. What do we need in order to add fractions? Common denominator. So we can give everything a denominator of 8. So what do we have to do to the 1/4 to get it to be a denominator of 8?
Times 2.
Awesome. Multiply the top and the bottom by 2. So we get 2/8. And then what should we do to the 4 to get it to be a denominator of 8?
Uh,
The whole number 4. What should we do to get it to have a denominator of 8 so we can add it together?
When you do that,
I mean, we can, but let's just get everything to have the same denominator so then we can do it all together. What's the denominator for the whole number 4? Does it have one?
1,
1. So what do we have to multiply to get that 1 to be an 8?
8,
8. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 8. So what's 4 times 8? 32. Good job. So now our denominator stays as 8, and we add the tops together. So we have 1 minus 2. What's 1 minus 2? Negative 1. And then what's negative 1 plus 32? 31. Good job. So 31 over 8. Did anyone get that one? These fractions were tough in this one. All right, Gilbert, does this open up or open down?
Down.
What's a negative?
Oh,
It goes up because our A is positive. So we're always looking at this first number. It's positive, so it opens up. Is our vertex at the max or min?
min.
It's at the minimum. Any questions so far?
Where's my son kids arguing and calling
That would be me.
All right, let's look at 4. What do we do first? Axis of symmetry. What's our formula for axis of symmetry?
Negative 2a.
Negative b over 2a. So what's our a and what's our b?
It's 1 and 0.
Awesome. 1 and 0. We don't have a number in front of the x squared, so it's a 1. And then we don't even have an x, so that's a 0. So we have 0 over 2 times 1, which is
X equals 0.
x equals 0. So what's our first number in our vertex? 0. How do we find the second number? Plug it in. So 0 squared plus 3.
3.
Awesome. 3. So our vertex is 0, comma 3.
Wait, Miss Carver?
Yes.
Number 3, I think I got it wrong, because I have 30.
All right, Gilbert, do we have a max or min? Well, does it open up or open down? Is our A positive or negative? 4. We're still on 4. It opens up. So is our vertex at the maximum or minimum? Is our vertex at the lowest point or the highest point? The vertex is this dot right here. Minimum.
Nice, Gilbert.
Do you need to move closer?
I can see it says minimum, but I can't see that.
No, I don't think you're adding.
Okay.
No, man.
All right, what do we do first for number 5?
Yeah.
Maddie, what do we do first for number 5? 4 is A and 2 is B. Negative B over 2A. So we have negative 2 over 2 times 4. So negative 2 over 8. What does this simplify to? Negative 1 over 4. Because we divide the top and the bottom by 2. So we get negative 1 over 4. So our axis of symmetry is x is equal to negative 1 over 4. So what's the first number in our vertex? Negative 1/4. How do we find the second number?
Plug in.
Plug it in. So 4 times negative 1/4 squared plus 2 times negative 1/4. What do we do first to solve? Negative 1/4 squared. So that would be negative 1/4 times negative 1/4, which gives us
1/8. Or
what's 4 times 4?
1/16.
1/16. So 4 times 1/16 plus, what's 2 times negative 1/4? So we multiply the tops together, multiply the bottoms. So what's 2 times negative 1? Negative 2. And 1 times 4? 4. How do we multiply 4 times 1/16? What do we get? So make 4 fractions, so multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. 4/16. What does 4/16 simplify to?
1/4.
Perfect. We divide the top and the bottom by 4, so we get 1/4 minus 2/4. What's 1/4 minus 2/4? Negative 1/4. Awesome. All that work just to get the same number. Yep. All right. Gilbert, can you see the problem?
Let's go, Gilbert.
Does it open up or open down?
Down.
Is A positive or negative?
Negative. No. Down.
Is A positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive. So which way does it open? It's positive.
Down.
It opens up if it's positive. It opens down if it's negative.
Positive smiley face.
Positive smiley face.
I have a question.
Alright, so is our vertex at the maximum or minimum?
Min.
The minimum. Ready for number 6? Okay. Axis of symmetry, x is equal to negative b over 2a. What's our a? 1. And what's our b? 0. So we get 0/2 times 1, which is 0. So x is equal to 0. So what's the first number in our vertex? 0. How do we find the second number? Plug it in. So x 0 squared, so we're plugging 0 in for x, minus 6. So 0 minus 6 is what? Negative 6. So our vertex is 0, negative 6. Is our a positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive. So do we open up or open down?
No, that's a good day.
We open up. It's a smiley face. Is our vertex at the highest point or lowest point? The max or min?
Min.
The min. Good job. I'll try on the quiz to give you pretty numbers, but there may be a fraction on there. So you guys gotta know how to do it. It'd be too easy. So our axis of symmetry is x is equal to negative b over 2a. What's our a?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. What's our b?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. So this is negative 4 over 2 times negative 1. Oh, negative negative 4. I almost missed that because it's negative b. So what happens to that negative 4 on top?
4.
Comes a positive 4. And then we have 2 times negative 1, so it's negative 2. How do we simplify 4 over negative 2?
It's either 2 or negative 2.
Well, how many negative signs do we have?
1.
1. So what's a positive divided by a negative? Negative. So negative 2. So our axis of symmetry is x is equal to negative 2.
I got that. I understand.
Good job. So our first number in our vertex is negative 2. How do we find the second? Plug it in. So here we got to be careful because we have a lot of negatives happening. So we have negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 plus 2. What do we do first to solve?
Negative 2 squared.
What's negative 2 squared?
2.
4. And then we have that negative on the outside, so it's negative 4. Now we have negative 4 times negative 2.
8.
8. And then plus 2. So what is negative 4 plus 8?
Oh, I did not know. I just did 8 plus 2 and
Well, what's 8 plus 2?
10.
And then what's 10 minus 4?
6.
Good job. Yeah, you can do it whatever way you want, as long as if you're adding and subtracting all of them, you can do it in whatever order because it's the same step. So our vertex is negative 2, 6. All right, Gilbert, is our A positive or negative?
Over.
Is negative.
Negative. So do you think we have a happy face or a sad face? Sad face. So is our vertex at the maximum or minimum? Maximum. Good job. All right, let's take a look at 8. So first thing, axis of symmetry, x is equal to negative b over 2a. What's our a?
1.
1. What's our b?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. So we have negative 6 over 2 times 1. What happens to that negative 6 on top?
6.
Positive 6. And what's 2 times 1?
3.
What's 6 divided by 2? 3. So our axis of symmetry is what? X is equal to 3. So our first number in our vertex is 3. How do we find the second one? Plug it in. So we have 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 4. So PEMDAS, what should we do first?
3 squared.
3 squared. What's 3 times 3? 9. What is 6 times 3? 18. And plus 4. So what's 9 minus 18 plus 4? Well, negative 9 plus 4. Negative 5. So our second number in our vertex is negative 5. Gilbert, is our A positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive. So do we have a happy face or a sad face?
Happy
Happy face.
Positive.
Do we have a max or min? Minimum. Good job. All right, just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip number 9 because we got lots to do today. So let's go to number 10. So for these, we can just look at it and determine our vertex, axis symmetry, max or min. So what's our vertex? 2, 5. And then what's our axis of symmetry? X equals 2. And is our vertex at the max or min? Minimum. And what's our minimum value? What is it? 5. Awesome. Cake. Any questions? All right, let's look at the next one. What's our vertex? Four, 16. This one's kind of hard to tell if you put 4, 15. Close enough. 4, 16.
I also did the wrong problem. I thought I completely got the original.
All right, what's our axis of symmetry?
4.
X is equal to 4. Don't forget that X is equal to. And then, is this a max or min?
Max.
And what's our value of our max? 16. All right, next. We have, what's our vertex? -4, 2. And then what's our axis of symmetry? X equals -4. And is this a max or min? And what's the value of our max? 2. All right, so the next thing we're going to do today is graph them. Yay.
You are in science.
Mom, we gotta figure it out now.
All right.
You leaving home early?
So I am going to do the first 3 with you guys, and then your homework is to do the rest of them. So your homework for tonight is to graph 1 through 9.
That's a lot of graphs.
We're going to do 1 through 3 together. So let's take a look at number 1.
Wow.
All right. So we have our graph. What's the first thing you think we should graph? Ooh, that is not straight.
The hardest part about this is making these graphs.
Remember Mr. Patrick said, get a ruler, guys.
0, 0, our vertex. We always start with our vertex. So our vertex is at 0, 0. Our axis symmetry just goes right through it. Let me change the color so we can see. So we graphed in vertex form, but this is a little bit different. So how do we think that we find another point on our graph? What should we do? How do we find a second point on our graph in vertex form? So we want to plug in a number. What can we plug in?
1.
1. We want to plug in something as close to our axis of symmetry as possible. So to find the second point, make a little note here. We plug in a number. So we're going to plug in 1. So we have -1 squared. That negative is on the outside, so just be careful because it's not what's being squared. It's the 1 that's being squared. So what's 1 squared? 1. And then that negative is on the outside, so we get -1. So what's our point? What did we plug in? Plugged in 1 and got -1. So we're going to go to the right 1 and down 1. What should we do for our third point?
Always just do the parabola.
The same thing on the other side is our third point. Because remember, our axis of symmetry means our graph is symmetrical. So once we have our 3 points, we draw our parabola. For the homework, you have to use the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and then you just plug in another point. So use the information that you've already found to graph. So use the same page. All right, let's look at number 2. I'm gonna do our graph up top. So what's the first thing we should plot on our graph? The vertex. What's our vertex?
0, 0.
Oh, lucky us, it's 0, 0 again. Our axis of symmetry is just gonna go right through it. So we graphed a vertex, graphed our axis of symmetry. What do we need next?
Gotta use it a little bit.
Plug in a number. We need another point, so let's plug in a number. What number can we plug in? 1. So we're plugging in 1. So we have 5 times 1 squared. What's 1 squared?
1.
1. And what's 5 times 1?
5.
5. So when we plugged in 1, we got 5. So our next point is 1, 5. So we go to the right 1 and up 5. Put our point right there. Do we have another point? How do we find our other point? We need the same point on the other side because our graph is symmetrical. And then we just draw our parabola. Done. Okay, number 3. So our vertex is at 1/4 and 31/8, which is about 4. So we're going to go to the right 1/4 and up 4. This one's kind of tricky because it's fractions, but just use your best estimate to where it would be. So we have 1/4 and then 31/8. So here's our vertex. Our axis of symmetry just goes right through it. How do we find another point on our graph? Plug in a number. What can we plug in? Sure, let's plug in 0. We want to plug in something as close to the axis of symmetry as possible, but it also has to be a whole number. Well, it doesn't have to be a whole number, but it's a lot easier to work with whole numbers than fractions, right? Yeah. So 0 is close to it. Let's plug in 0. So
Wait, where did we get that point from?
our
Like,
vertex. The point here came from our vertex. Now our second point, we're plugging in 0. So we have 2 times 0 squared minus 0 plus 4. So what's 0 squared? 0. What's 0 times 2? 2. No. What's 0 times 2? 0. And then minus 0 plus 4. So what's 0 minus 0 plus 4? Come on, guys, stay with me. 0 minus 0 plus 4. 0 minus 0 plus 4. 4. So our point is 0, 4. So we stay on 0, go up 4. Now, this one's a little tricky because we are 1/4 of a space away on the left side. So we have to be 1/4 of a space away on the right. So our next point is just going to be the same distance, but there. And then we graph our parabola.